Hi everyone, so today we are going to create a Santa tray for the kids to leave out for Santa for like cookies and milk and a snack for the reindeer. So we're going to go ahead and set this up on my for the 6550 from YoraHome, and we're going to do it up in Lightburn. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we need to do is measure our material. This is what I do before I do any of my work, which is 6 7/8 by 10. So 6 7/8 by 10. And anytime before I do anything, if you watch my videos, you know, I always create a frame to know my work area. So with that being said, create a square. I'm going to unlock it. The width is going to be, what I say, 11 7, so it'll be 11.875 by 10. And then I'm going to go ahead and lock it. I'm going to click my select icon, and then I'm going to go to Arrange, Move to the lower left. So now this is my work area. I'm going to just go up here on my layer and change it to line to get it out of the way. I always recommend when you start a new project is to go right to the first layer, double click on it, click reset to default, click OK, and then that puts everything back to the defaults. So I'm going to click my zoom to frame selection, and now the 10 by 11 7/8 is my work area. I'm not going to do any work outside this box, otherwise it's going to burn right off of the piece of wood. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drag over the SVG. I'm going to zoom out a little bit before I do. I'm going to drag it over, drop it in, and before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and choose the second layer. I don't want it on the same layer. So before you unselect any of it, you want to click on another layer, which happens to be 01. And then I'm going to double click on that layer, reset the default, and then click OK. Now in this case, I'm going to want line and fill. So I'm going to set that, and I'm going to also make sure that it is grouped so that I can move it. So now that if I click away from it, deselect it, and I click on it, it should all be grouped, and I'm going to center it in my piece here. So in this case, if I highlight the first layer with all the letters, and then I'm going to hold the shift key and highlight or select the outer frame, now I should be able to go to Arrange, Align Centers, and because I selected this part first and the frame second, it's going to align the first selection to the second selection. So it aligned everything dead center of my square here. Now I am going to make a minor change. So let's click on Zoom to Frame Selection, and I need to put a name here. And if you notice that it doesn't have, this is just a text, it's a SVG, so I don't have the actual font. But I also don't like the size of this, and I think I want to just bring this part up a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select it, and I'm going to ungroup it. So this is going to be a little bit of a work here. I'm going to actually hide the frame for just a second. And we should be all deselected now. So we are. So I'm going to select this. So I want all of this. I want this. I'm holding the shift key and selecting all the things that I want here. That should be all, and I want to move it up just a tad. Oh, no, I want to move this too. I'm going to use my arrow keys, whoop, too much, and move it up a tad. And as you can see, it didn't select everything that I wanted, or did it? Yeah, it did. Now it did. So if I hold the control key, it moves just a little bit. So I want it just a tad. Now I want to turn my frame back on to know that's going to be the top of the piece of wood. So now that I have that selected and hold the control key, whoops, I could move it one more time. I think right there is pretty good actually. So now I'm going to deselect it, and I'm going to come down here to the love. So I'm going to have to write my own text here. So I'm going to remove this whole love thing here. I'm going to delete it all, just keep selecting and deleting it, and deleting it. And that is that. This here line, actually let's first put in some text before we move the line around. So let's click here, click the text. I'm gonna put love, comma, and click the select. So I'm gonna just have it by itself because I don't want it, I actually want the words, the person's name to be on a separate layer, but for right now we're just gonna use this love. So we just have to find the font that we want to use. I happen to like a font called Alex Brush. Whoops, I just passed it. And I think I'm going to do it bold. I think, is that correct? And I kind of like that. And I think I'm going to make it bigger for sure. Thinking point 5, like right there, move it over some, maybe love. And I actually could go ahead and put the person's name here, but so I'm going to do Nate. That's the kid's name. So if I move this over here, like right there, that actually looks pretty good, to be honest with you. I'm going to say, if you zoom out, and there's a tray, love Nate. I think the word love Nate is a little bit big. So I can come up here and just downsize it with the height adjustment here. Maybe right there is pretty good. Kind of like that. I was thinking of putting the love here and then Nate down a little bit. Let's try that. Let's delete out Nate. And then let's create Nate here. Click select, drag and drop it down, click the word love. Let's move it over here. Nate over here. I don't know, kind of like that. I'll put it down here, and then I can make it just a little bit bigger. And then the word love. I kind of like that actually. Let me click the, what is this, the pane drag view. I'm going to drop down here. I actually kind of like that. I think I'm going to move the love back just a tad. Hold the control key, use my cursors. I actually like that a lot. So now I have what I want here. So let's start with getting the burn. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the output on here, and we're going to have the frame. We're going to run the frame around the center here. And what I'll do is I'll put my laser here and then have the frame run around the whole thing to make sure that we have exactly where we are burning this. However, first thing you need to know is we want to double click on the layer, and the speed I'm going to do about 110, but the power is only 1. Really important that you only use 1 because we don't want it to burn. We just want it to go around the wood and just outline exactly where it's going to be. So first thing we're going to do is let's move our laser close over here. Let's power it on. And I'm going to come over to move. I'm going to turn the fire light on. It's not, oh, we're disconnected. Sorry, here, hold on. Minor difficulty there. So I'm going to click my fire button. And I'm going to move it right to that very corner. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'm going to, for the heck of it, move this to the left. And we're going to zoom it in. Now I'm going to turn the fire off. Now before we get started, I like to come down and right click on the devices, and you're going to notice it's going to go disconnected and then ready. So now that we have reset the machine, we're going to go to get position, and it should have zeros. If it does, click set origin. Now it's not going to be where we're going to mainly start, it's where we're going to start at the moment. So if you notice down here we have the red dot, and it also show last position, I have the crosshairs here. So if I tell the machine to move, you're going to see that moving, and we're going to go from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the output is only on the outer frame, and we're going to tell it to run. It's going to run a circle around the board and tell us exactly where it's at. So let's rock and roll. As you can see, we're right on the edge, which is good. And it's actually pretty perfect there. It's not quite square, but that's okay, we'll get it. Coming pretty good there. And pretty good there. You should be able to see that. It's not quite as square as I would like it. So I'm going to actually just move it a little bit. And I'm going to tell it to go back to its origin. And now I'm going to click the fire, make sure I'm there, and I'm going to run it again. So now that I've turned it a little bit, it actually looks really good. Looks actually pretty perfect. I might have done this before. Yeah. I like it. You can see it's right on the edge. So that is specifically where we want it. So I'm going to tell it to go to origin. And I'm going to click set origin again. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the cut. Let's go to the cuts tab, and we're going to turn off the frame, and we're going to turn on the words SVG that we have, and we're going to double click on the layer. If you haven't already done so, I would reset the default just so we can start over. And I'm going to move our camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So actually, let's change the speed from 85 and 95 power. We're going to make sure that the air assist is off, fill in line is on. Let's just work our way down here. Let's change the DPI to 295. I'm going to come back to overscanning. And my scan degree, see, I find a better burn when you do it on an angle as opposed to running right along the grain. So my scan angle, I'm going to change to 135, and as you can see, it's going to burn on an angle which I really like. The other thing is the overscanning. So I like to do the overscan. The default is like 2.5. I prefer like 15-20%. For this one, I'm going to use 15. It's going to go almost 1/4 of an inch. Doesn't quite need to go that far. We could probably, let's just leave it. And what that is when your laser comes all the way to the end here, and then it has to come back. When it stops, instead of if the laser does not shut off, so instead of it standing right there and burning for an extra couple of milliseconds and then going back, it's going to actually go past the burn. The laser is going to shut off, go past it, and then come back. Because if not, your outer edges are all going to have a little bit of extra burn to them, and that's a result of having a higher power and no overscan. So the laser is going to go past and then come back. This way it doesn't just burn that extra time. So while we're here, let's click on the advanced tab. We don't have anything. This is the new version, by the way, the 9.18. The line after fill, we want to do probably about the same, I would say. Let's say, let's go 85 power and I'm sorry, 85 speed and 85 power. Oh, yeah. And so that's just going to run around all the edges and everything, and we don't need it to be as hot as it's already going to burn. It already has burnt most of the edges. We just want to do like a fill-in, but we don't want to do too much. So that should be good. We're going to click OK, and then when you right-click, go to Preview, you should be able to see your preview. Even though you do see those lines, it's not going to look like that. It's going to actually look pretty good. Our time is about 4 hours roughly, which is probably about right. But that's about what it's going to look like. We're going to click OK, And before we actually start, let's double check everything. Let's move my screen over. Let's make this larger for you. We want to make sure that first off that 85, 95, our angle what we had is all good. We're going to, it is already at our origin. We can go to origin again just to make sure that it does not move. Make sure start from user origin is on and the job origin is to the left, bottom left. So we are good to go there. Everything looks good, so I think we should just go ahead and let her go. You can ignore this. It thinks we're at the edge of the board, which we are not. We're at a good spot. And there she goes. As you can see, we started on an angle there. And we're going to go ahead and let it burn. We've got about 4 hours, so we'll come back periodically. Alright, so we are done the burn. Here we go. As you can see, she came out pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean it all up. And probably going to paint this white, maybe then brown, carrots, a hat. I've already posted one picture. I'll probably post this one when I'm done with it. And that's it. That is all we do. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.